So engage with me in a thought experiment. Let's say we wanted to create the most fabulously effective character education program for the kids in this country. What do we need? Well, we need a place for them to gather. We need adults to work with them. It would need to be a program that parents would support. It'd be great if it was an activity kids like, so they didn't have to be dragged kicking and screaming to it. And wouldn't it be great if there were a lot of teachable moments the adults could use to teach life lessons to the kids? Well, as they say, I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is we don't have to go out and spend billions of dollars creating a huge infrastructure for character education. It already exists. It's called youth sports. We have baseball diamonds, soccer fields, gymnasiums all over the country. We have, get this, 4 million coaches in high school and youth sports, the vast majority of whom are volunteers who get no pay. Parents are willing to make sacrifices to get their kids to practices and games, and kids love sports, at least until they get a nasty, snarly coach who squeezes all the enjoyment out of it. And then finally, high school and youth sports is a virtual classroom for life lessons with an endless procession of teachable moments. That's the good news. We have the infrastructure. The bad news is it's not working very well. Several years, Positive Coaching Alliance compiled a top 10 and bottom 10 list of the best and worst moments in youth sports during that year. 1 year alone, we had a brawl among 8-year-old hockey players. We had the dad of an 11-year-old wrestler who came out in the middle of a match and threw his son's opponent off the mat. We had a lacrosse coach who punched a 13-year-old player in the face. We had a dad who was convicted of giving his son steroids and human growth hormones to try to help lower his speed skating score. And then we had a woman who was so angry at her daughter's performance in a soccer tournament that she actually got a ticket for forcing her daughter out of the car and leaving her on a highway in the middle of nowhere. Now, recently we had the ultimate tragedy. Ricardo Portillo, a soccer official in Utah, died after being hit in the head by a teenage soccer player. Now, these are just the tips of the iceberg. There's all kinds of evidence that youth sports is not living up to its potential as a character education program. And the reason is simple. We have the wrong culture. The dominant culture in sports today is what I call an entertainment sports culture. It's about entertaining fans. In order to entertain fans, you have to win. And thus, there's a win-at-all-cost mentality that colors every level of sports in our society. Fortunately, there's a competing vision. We call high school and youth sports as a development zone where the goal is developing better athletes and better people. Now, as you might guess, there's quite a difference between the entertainment sports culture and the development zone culture. For example, a bad official's call that goes against your team. In the entertainment sports culture, that is a travesty deserving of rebuke. In the development zone, a bad official's call is an opportunity for kids to work on resilience. Every successful adult has resilience. A losing streak. In the entertainment sports culture, that is awful. To the point where the fans even boo the home team if they lose too many games in a row. In the development zone, a losing streak is an opportunity for kids to learn to struggle. Now, a lot of people think struggle is a bad thing. Struggle is a good thing. And there's no better place for kids to learn to struggle, to persevere and persist and prevail when things don't go well, than high school and youth sports. And then there's the scoreboard. In the entertainment sports culture, the scoreboard, winning is either everything or the only thing. John Madden once said, winning is the best deodorant. He meant that if you win, you can get away with a lot of things that don't pass the smell test. Now, it's not that the scoreboard's not important in the development zone. It's a crucial ingredient in the recipe for developing better athletes, better people. Now, the role of a coach in the development zone is different. Coaches are what we call double goal coaches. First goal, winning. You're trying to win on the scoreboard. Second, more important goal is to use sports to teach life lessons. Fortunately, we have double goal coaches at every level of sports in this country. Take Brad Stevens, recently named head coach of the Boston Celtics. April 4th, 2011, Brad Stevens' team, the Butler University Bulldogs, was playing in the national championship game against the University of Connecticut. The Bulldogs went into the locker room ahead. They came out and played perhaps the worst half of basketball any team has ever played in a national championship game, and they got crushed. Afterwards, Stevens was asked, man, how does it feel to lose a game like that? Brad Stevens thought for a minute, and he said one of the most remarkable things I've ever heard a coach say. I guess if any team has to lose the way we did, I guess it's a good thing it was us, because my players have the character to deal with it. Anybody who knows anything about Brad Stevens knows that he is a very competitive guy and he likes to win. He brought a marginally talented team all the way to the championship game. But he also is aware of that second goal, the character education goal, and when his players were down, imagine playing the worst game of your life in front of a national TV audience. He reminded them that they had the character to deal with it. Athletes are also different in the development zone. Athletes are what we call a triple impact competitor. Someone who makes himself better, makes her teammates better, and makes the game better by the way he or she competes. Once again, we have examples all through sports, all levels, of triple impact competitors. Take Shane Battier with the Miami Heat. Michael Lewis, the author of Moneyball, wrote an article, cover story for the New York Times Magazine about Shane Battier called The No Stats All-Star. And he noted that although Shane Battier doesn't score many points, and he doesn't get many rebounds, every team he leaves gets worse. Every team he goes to gets better. Well, in 2011, he went to the Miami Heat, and that year they won the NBA title. And after it was over, LeBron James said, the key to our winning this year, when we didn't win last year, was Shane Battier. There was a moment in the 2012 NBA Finals against Oklahoma City where Shane Battier was called for a charging foul. It just so happened that the color commentator there was his old coach, Jeff Van Gundy. And Jeff Van Gundy said, that didn't look like a foul to me. They showed the replay, and Battier had not even touched the other player. What did Shane do? He popped up, no facial expression, didn't say to the official, didn't even look at the official, and he hustled back on defense. Get ready for what we say is always the most important play, the next play. And Van Gundy got it exactly right. He said, that is mental toughness. Shane Battier is putting his team in a position to win. We also see this in college sports. April 2008, a game between Division II, between Western Oregon University and Central Washington University. The woman in the middle, Sarah Tukolsky, hit the first home run of her life. She was so excited that her first home run was in a big game that might determine which of these two teams went to the NCAA championship, or NCAA playoffs. She rounded first, and she was so excited she missed the base, and she realized that, and she pivoted to go back, and boom, her knee fell out. She went down in a clump. She was in so much pain, there was no way she could continue around the bases. Meanwhile, Central Washington's star first baseman, Mallory Holtman, went to the first base umpire and said, could we help her? And he said, I guess I don't see why not. So she got a teammate, and they went to pick up Sarah, and Sarah said, what are you doing? And Mallory said, we're going to help you get the home run that you earned. Now, this iconic moment was recognized by ESPN in the ESPY Awards as the ESPY Moment of the Year. We call it the Mallory Moment. And we challenge high school and youth coaches and athletes, if you continue to compete, sooner or later you're going to have your own Mallory moment. It's not going to look exactly like hers, but you're going to have the opportunity to elevate the game or not. And will you be ready for that? Now, I started out saying good news. We have this infrastructure. Bad news. It's not working. I want to end with some very good news. And that is that there's a movement of thousands of people across the country who are working to use high school and youth sports to develop better athletes, better people. If you're excited about the potential of having development zones in schools and youth sports organizations all across the country, you can be part of that. If you're a youth sports leader, you can learn to create a development zone culture in your organization. Culture is simply the way we do things here. And through messaging and action, you can create a set of expectations for behavior that will get your coaches, parents, and athletes walking the development zone talk. If you're a coach, you can teach your players character-building tools like a mistake ritual. Your shortstop scoops up the ball cleanly and throws it way over the first baseman's head. At that moment, your shortstop is no longer in the present. Her negative self-talk kicks in, she's beating herself up, and she's in the past. If you've taught her a mistake ritual, she looks at you as a coach, and instead of slamming your clipboard down, you're saying, don't worry, flush it, brush it off, wipe it off. Her teammates are saying, don't worry, we'll get it back, brush it off. And this allows your shortstop, all of your players, to over time develop the mental toughness to quickly rebound from mistakes, even costly mistakes. If you're a sports parent, you can be what we call a second goal parent. Let the coaches and the athletes own the scoreboard. That first goal. You focus relentlessly on the second goal. So let's say your child has a chance to make the winning play in a big game, and they blow the shot. You can have a second goal conversation with them. You can say, I bet you wish you had made that play, but one of the things I like about you is you're the kind of person who doesn't get discouraged easily. You're the kind of person who bounces back when things go wrong. You're the kind of person who's willing to take the big shot in an important game. If you're an athlete, you can learn how to make your teammates better. You can learn how to fill their emotional tank, which is like the gas tank in a car. If you're going for a long drive, you got to make sure your gas tank is full. If players' emotional tanks are drained from criticism and bad things happening, they're not going to play their best. As an athlete, you can become a noticer. You can notice the things that your teammates do that make you and the team better, and you can recognize them for that. You can thank them. If you fill the emotional tanks of your teammates, not only will the team get better, but you'll become the kind of person that other people want to have on their team. So the very good news, high school and youth sports is a major institution in this country. As many as 40 million kids play high school and youth sports in any given year. We know how to create development zones in schools and youth sports organizations, and if we do, we'll create the ethical leaders and the positive contributors we need so desperately in this country. We change youth sports, we change the country.